Hello, everyone. This is Lala, and today I'm going to talk about an ideology, a concept, or just a thing that happens on reality TV, especially competitive reality TV, a lot, but I haven't seen a video made on it by any of the popular reality TV YouTubers, and that is veteran privilege, otherwise known as returning player privilege. So, before we get deep into it, I want to talk about the definitions of some of these words. So, a veteran is a person who has significant experience and is usually adept and esteemed and expertise in an occupation or field. So, that is the definition of a veteran. And privilege is a special right, advantage, or immunity granted or available only to a particular person or group. Now that we have the definitions of veteran and privilege, we're going to kind of combine the two definitions to create an official definition for what is veteran privilege. So, how I define veteran privilege is it is an experienced person in an occupation or a field, in this case, reality TV, or more specifically, Big Brother, since I'm probably going to use that as an example, gaining a special right, advantage, and or immunity that is available to this person or group of people due to their prior experience in this field in the past, compared to their competition or contemporaries, who are most likely going to be new. I am the most familiar with Big Brother, and it's the backbone of my channels overall, so I'll most likely use that as a reference point in regarding my talking points about veteran privilege, though I might add some commentary regarding other shows in this specific video. Whenever someone is cast for a reality TV season, they are given a stipend for their future services, since they are leaving their homes and livelihoods for a specific length of time. Could be weeks, could be days, could be months, as it is usually with the larger reality TV shows like Big Brother. To partake in this reality show, I am mentioning this because whenever a returning player on any show gets their stipend, it is a lot larger than a newbie stipend. I am mentioning this because if a network is paying more than normal for a returning player to be on their reality program show, they are going to want a return in their investment. How do they get the return in their investment? That is a very loaded question, which we will definitely get into throughout this video. So, how do they get their return in their investment? That is a very loaded question, which we will definitely get into throughout the video. 1. Cast members usually, or at least in the past 2 decades, referring to the 2000s and the 2010s, were given seasons to watch in Sequester so they can familiarize themselves in the game. Usually, the seasons given to these new players to watch happen to be seasons that have the returning players on it, or the returning player on the season that they're on. So, for an example, for Big Brother 14, let's just say the seasons that they were given were probably Big Brother 10 and Big Brother All Stars. And Big Brother 18 was most likely given Big Brother 18, so stuff like that. So, when said returning player ends up in the game, they immediately defer to the veteran player. 2, you can usually tell what seasons the newbies were pushed to watch, whether in Sequester or the casting process, and this usually comes out during the live feeds of a season. During the preseason interviews, the new players, especially the recruits, can, though sometimes the super fans as well, usually name 1 or 2 or maybe 3 seasons that they watched, and on the feeds, they will say that the live feeds gave them these seasons. In these same interviews and bios, some of them will name the returning player from said season as their favorite player, so the newbies were cast to aid and align with specific veteran players. 3. There are a bunch of twists that are put into place to ensure the best odds of the veterans we can get far. On Big Brother 11, they designed the first HOH competition in a manner that would give whichever returnee entered the game, they would become the first HOH, and they would be able to structure their season to their benefit and their dynamics to their benefit to start the path of how they want their season to go. On Big Brother 13, the veterans who know one another were paired with their partner or their relative, while the newbies were paired with a bunch of strangers, giving them an inherent advantage. The Golden Key twist was also created just in case one veteran was voted out early. The other one would be given immunity for the next several weeks. In addition to that, there was a pre-jury buyback, just in case one of them went early, and the person who had a chance to play in the returning competition was fan-voted, and the returning players already have fan bases, compared to the relatively unknown newbies. And then there's of course the Deuce twist coming back conveniently in the final 6, when Rachel and Jordan were in danger. The coach's twist gave the returning players 3 to 4 weeks of immunity, and only 1 out of 4 of them had to push the button for all of them to come back. And Big Brother 18 had the most of this. I don't even think I can go over all the details, though I will definitely try. One, they were able to be split onto teams, so one of them would be safe if they won HOH, and you could work it out in a way where you could only target one team. And then there was the roadkill competition, which gives another element of safety, or can give them more access of control. There were 3 ways a buyback took place in the season. There was the pre-jury buyback, there was the round-trip ticket, where if you got evicted and if you had the ticket, you can come back, and then there was the jury buyback, and I'm sure I'm missing so much more with the season in general. And then in Big Brother 19, it was pretty much set up where Paul would be safe for many weeks, since one, he was given friendship bracelets that he would give to the house guests, which would cause them to be incentivized to work with him even more. There was a pendant of protection power that was voted as soon as the season started, and no one knew the Big Brother 19 house guests, but they for sure knew Paul, so obviously Paul got that, and Paul was given safety for 3 to 4 weeks, if I remember correctly, and they set up the temptation so easily to the fact that Paul would return no matter what. It's just stuff like that, and I'm pretty sure there are more details I'm forgetting from this generic description. On paper, the privilege of these veterans on their season, quote unquote, seems non existent, since they generally have a lack of numbers entering the season, but it is all a smokescreen. A decent amount of newbies who are cast to work with, unlike the specific veteran players, will lean towards the veterans, so it ends up balancing itself out, and we see this on every single mixed season. So on a season like Big Brother 13 or Big Brother 18 with 4 to 6 veterans, that number turns into 8 to 9 to 10 people supporting them. Heck, even on Big Brother 18, 2 siblings of veterans, i.e. Tiffany and Polly, were cast just so they could work with the veterans, which we did see take place in the season. I actually might make a separate video on the relatives of alumni or add them in another chapter of this video, since I do think they, in some way, also benefit from veteran privilege as well. The same thing applies to Survivor regarding their veteran privilege. Newbies are cast to enable and support veterans, though it is different regarding some of these mixed seasons regarding teams, which we see in Survivor Micronesia and Caramon. But on tribes where veterans and newbies do intermingle, the same dynamic and rhetoric forms on here like on Big Brother, which we do see on mixed seasons like Survivor South Pacific, Survivor Redemption Island, Survivor Edge of Extinction, and Survivor Blood vs. Water to a lesser extent. Another element where veteran privilege comes in is that the edit will be in favor of the veterans. They will narrate the season, whether they last on their season or not, so they could be early boots, but still narrate that period in the season. And if they do have longevity in the season, they'll just narrate the entire season. And the newbies will have less time to narrate themselves. Look at the confessional count for some of these seasons. It's very obvious. When it comes to fan-voted twists, powers, and rewards, it will most likely go to the veterans as well, due to the edit and their prior fan base, which they got from some super fans who watch the feeds or follows these reality stars, veterans, on their social media, or just casuals who only just watch the show during that hour time slot and they move on. But because they watched it the prior year or whatever, and they're just watching it on the show, they still recognize some of these faces that they saw in the past. So production will use these veterans to narrate whatever event is happening on these shows because one, they're more familiar with the veterans. Two, the veterans have a better relationship with production. Three, they know what production wants, so they are going to give it to them when it comes to the show element more. So the relationship with production and the casual audience is stronger in compared to the newbies. Producers will often show favoritism towards veterans, who they are familiar with, easier to produce to an extent, and will manipulate things in their favor. Producers push for veterans to be kept when on the block or in danger, but it isn't always successful. Though the most infamous example of this is during the final 6 round of Big Brother 16, where Jordan and Rachel were to be nominated for eviction, and not only did they put them in pairs again, so if they took themselves off the block, both of them would be safe instead of just being one of them. They also made the Vita competition the exact same competition that Rachel won when she was HOH. And that rarely happens. Anyways, some newbies also side with the veterans due to wanting proximity to said privilege and favoritism. If you're on the right side of the veterans, and especially production, the better it is for you. At least that's the mentality that a lot of these newbies have. And these newbies might become a favorite themselves, or maybe they'll get a twist in their favor, or maybe they'll get a better edit themselves, or maybe this connection to said vet will be lucrative well after the season concludes. This leads to a major component in this regard: experience and exposure. Veterans have navigated the Big Brother experience beforehand, or whatever show that is in reference. So, a returning Survivor vet has experienced Survivor before, same thing with The Challenge, The Amazing Race, so on and so forth. So, playing in that environment, dealing with production, the fan response outside of the house, and the supposed lucrative opportunities after the show, from social media sponsorships, potentially other reality TV gigs, booking for fan events, some modeling experience, and a bunch of other stuff. This is the perfect lead into the next show that I will reference, since there has been people who transferred from Big Brother to said other show, or Survivor to said other show, and in general, just based on all the streaming reality shows that are forming, there's a lot of transfer from network to network or show to show. So that could be a potential rationale regarding signing with returning veterans. The Challenge is a very insular show compared to the other competitive reality shows. For most of the show's history, they cast people from The Real World and Road Rules, to a lesser extent with the latter show, since that show got cancelled earlier on in the Challenge's run. This includes the newbies, who already knew some of the veterans, and the veterans know some of the other veterans throughout prior challenge seasons, and some of the newbies and other veterans were either on the same Road Rules or the same Real World season as well. So there's a lot of insular connections due to this. Veterans, especially in the modern seasons, play for future seasons, so they protect one another vehemently, target newbies, with the newbies having a smaller case of coming back, and they incentivize newbies to side with them as well, stating that playing safe will cause the newbies to become regulars, meaning more social media revenue, meaning more exposure by being on the show over and over again, and the profile could potentially get larger from being on the show. The entire culture and landscape of the show is based on veteran privilege, especially since they cast more veterans than newbies on the show. And all the points that I made for other shows apply here too. Okay, so that was my little opinion on the topic of veteran privilege, which I feel like is something that has been discussed in code or very briefly, but never really deeply defined. I could go deep into each of the seasons that have returning players in each of these shows and really go in depth about how veteran privilege affected those seasons, use some examples, talk about the players who were deceived by veteran players, so the newbie players, or the newbie players who used the veteran's privilege to their advantage, so on and so forth. So, this video might be the first part of several regarding veteran privilege, and the others being examples of this in certain seasons of certain shows, so that might be something that comes into play. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll be back with more soon. Bye!